are Geekcentric, and you can be too. Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our special Behind the Geeks episode for Netflix's Nimona. My name is Nate, and if you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, games, toys, and collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Now, before I introduce who's joining us in the podcast today, I also want to mention we have opened up our Discord so we can talk directly to you about our various interviews or all the movies and shows we love. So if you want to join in and keep the geeky conversation going, the link to do so will be in our show notes. So please come through. Let's talk about Nimona. We've also got a spoiler-filled channel for our weekly watch club of Secret Invasion. So again, let's keep the geeky conversations going. But with that said, joining me for this Behind the Geeks episode, he's a jaunty jackalope who's jazzy like a jaguar. He's Justin, the jellyfish, Lawrence.
Ooh, jellyfish. They are both lethal and inviting.
And beautiful.
Yes, they're beautiful, right? They're deceivingly, they kind of capture you in their sort of web of tentacles as they look so pretty, but yet they are lethal. Lethal. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I think, I think jellyfish, I've seen one. I've never touched one, thank goodness. I don't think you're supposed to. But, sometimes I also just think, like, what are they thinking? Like, they don't have eyes, do they? Do they?
They probably do. We just can't see them.
Right in.
Jellyfish.
If you're listening to this right now and you're a jellyfish
Sure, let
expert,
us know
please.
in the Discord. Maybe we're completely wrong.
Oh, man. Dude, you're tired. I'm tired. June was a packed month, dude. It felt like it was just nonstop. I think we get kind of like a teeny tiny break in July, but then come mid-July, it's going to ramp back up again. The hot geek summer is raining in.
I'm sweating, bro. I am sweating from this hot geek summer. Let me tell you. This last week was a mad dash with great opportunities, and as I always say, we do have lives outside of this, so balancing life stuff with ongoing stuff with all the opportunities. It's a challenge at times, but as long as we have good communication and we know our trajectory, we're going to get some great stuff out, and that is why we're here today. We are here today to share something lovely.
Absolutely, and I think that's it, right? All these opportunities, that's what makes it worth it.
All the
right?
stress, all the lack of sleep. Yeah, I agree.
We're talking to some folks from Nimona today, but before we get to them, Nimona is a shapeshifter, and she can change into not just animals, but people as well. I wanted to ask you, before you get the chance to ask our lovely guest, who do you want to shapeshift into for a day?
Yeah, I was thinking about this myself when we were coming up with the questions. I think, realistically, I would love to be someone like a Kevin Feige.
Ooh.
Right? And just, it would be great to just have some of that inside information. And, I can imagine if it was the shapeshift me as Kevin Feige, when someone came in and said, hey, can you approve this? I'd be like, we're doing this? I would totally.
Kevin, we talked about this yesterday, dude. Like, what are you?
We've been talking about it for the last 3 years. Are you okay? 3 years? Are you kidding me?
Oh, man. I would watch that movie. I think that would be a great movie. For me, I would say the answer to that question, I have answered, actually, very recently. I'd encourage all of you, if you're watching Secret Invasion, to check out our watch club for episode 2 of Secret Invasion, because I had a pretty dope answer, very similar, actually, Justin, to yours. I'm not going to reveal who it was. You'll have to go and listen to it, because, Skrulls are shapeshifter. This is a great month for shapeshifters.
Yeah, shapeshifters are really like getting
in
the limelight, right? Like they're totally in, right? Like it's totally a thing.
But instead of a person, I said, okay, for this one, I'll say which animal I probably I'm thinking an orca whale, dude. Like doing some free willy jumps, getting to spend the day in the water, especially in the hot summer. Like, I think that'd be pretty lovely.
Yes.
I was reading online because I was like, at first I put that like, oh, it'd be great to be able to breathe underwater. Orcas don't breathe underwater. They're mammals. They have a blowhole that they breathe through. But one interesting fact about orcas that I learned is that the blowhole is controlled by a sphincter. Who knew that mammals had sphincters that weren't in their butts? That's crazy.
I guess
I'm learning so much from this experience.
Thank the maker for the internet. So you can now learn about other things that have sphincters.
And sphincters in different spots. Anyways, Justin, we're not here to talk about sphincters today. Instead, would you maybe let the lovely folks listening who's joining us on the Geekcentric podcast today?
As you mentioned, we are talking to some folks from Nimona. And I got to say, this is probably the biggest list of people that we've talked to from a movie. Today we are talking to ND Stevenson, the creator of Nimona, whose graphic novel is the source material for this movie. But with that, we also have Nick Bruno and Chloë Quane, the directors of the film, and it's all out there. It's been a bit of a journey to get this movie to the finish line. But it doesn't stop there. We also had a chance to talk to the cast from this fantastic movie. So we're talking to Eugene Lee Yang, who plays Ambrosius Goldenloin. Still a mouthful.
Huge mouthful.
We're talking to Riz Ahmed, who voices Ballister Boldheart. And we're also talking to Chloë Grace Moretz, who plays Nimona herself.
Woo!
This is a stacked interview. A huge thanks to Netflix Canada and to our friends at Touchwood PR for helping to set this up. Back in April, I attended a animation press conference hosted by Netflix. And before the press conference, they gave us access to see Nimona as preparation because there was a whole panel with ND Stevens, the creator, Nick Bruno, Chloë Quane, Adian Sugano, who ran production, and then Karen Ryan and Julie Zachary, who were producers of the movie. And that was an enlightening experience to watch the movie, then to get a little bit of background information. And now here we are several months later. I can't do math right now. Talking to the entire cast. So again, a huge thanks to our friends at Netflix Canada and Touchwood PR for setting up this interview, this whole presentation, everything, and allowing us to take part in it. And look out for Netflix animation. Like, the panel was a intro to a variety of projects that are coming out between 2023 and 2024, and there's a lot. And while I didn't get to see like trailers for things, they showed clips, they showed animatics, they showed designs. There's a lot of investment that's going into Netflix animation, which is so funny because I think we we were talking about a story in one of our This Week in Geeks about them cutting back on animation.
Yeah, it's really good to hear that it's they're turning it around.
Well, a lot of it has to do with, and the presentation very much made it clear, with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio being such a huge success. And it was a massive success for Netflix, but for animation as a whole, it really, again, helps to establish this idea of animation as more than just a genre, but as a medium of great storytelling. And the panel consisted of a variety of projects that range from some of the more traditional animated projects, but some stuff that will definitely have people very excited in the coming years between 2023 and 2024. Because I think as far back as they were as far into 24 as towards the end of 2024, we got to see some stuff. So there's a lot of stuff in the works, a lot of stuff coming. So I'm really happy to see Netflix really investing in animation. And here we are talking about a movie that Netflix literally saved because at one point it was canceled and it was killed. So yeah,
I think it shouldn't take an Oscar to get to this place that it sounds like Netflix is at, but I'm really happy regardless that we are going to be getting more animation content. Hopefully we don't have to wait too long with everything going on with the writer's strike and potential other strikes, but I'm if any of these projects are anywhere near how great Nimona was, I think we're gonna have a pretty good time on the animation side with Netflix.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a great time. And 2023 alone has been a fantastic year for animation. I think most of my top movies for this year are animated.
Yeah.
In all honesty, over some of the big live actions. Even like we said, we're in the hot geek summer, and we're schwitzing from all these big summer blockbusters. But some of them land, some of them don't. And that's kind of what we have. But animation has stayed strong.
Kind of been consistent. I mean, Super Mario, like Mario Bros.
Yep.
We've got Elemental, Spider-Verse, and now Nimona, with more on the way. So, and more on the way, I think you're super stoked for as well with TMNT.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, before we kind of talk about them anymore, I think we should get to some of these interviews. We're gonna start with our interviews with the creative team behind Nimona, and then we're going to chat a little bit about that, and then we're going to come back to the cast of Nimona and kind of wrap it up there. So please enjoy our interview with Nimona directors Nick Bruno and Troy Quane, and Nimona creator ND Stevenson. Hey, Nick. Hey, Troy. My name's Justin. Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. How you guys doing today?
Great,
thanks.
And you might win for coolest real background.
Yeah, I know. What's
I
happening
guess
there?
so. Like, they're not artificial. Yeah, it's a bit of a studio.
Love it.
Do little photo shoots and stuff like that.
It works.
I'm very excited to be talking to you guys about this movie. It's such a delight, and by the sounds of it, a long time coming, based on the journey. With that in mind, I want to know, how do you guys feel now that this movie's finally out? Audiences are seeing it. You're getting some great reactions. How are you guys both feeling?
It's amazing.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
amazing. I mean, we love the story. We love the characters. We love what it represents, like this story about acceptance and getting to know people. And the fact that it's going to be out in the world soon is, especially after being killed at one point, is amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing that the story of the story has been what's been out for so long, but now people can react to the actual movie, and to see people react to the film itself is so gratifying.
Yeah, it definitely hits the heart, and I really appreciated my time with it. I've seen it twice now, and each time you're finding new layers of personality and discovery. It's such a great experience, and like you guys are mentioning, it was a lengthy process to get this movie to the finish line. I wanted to know, what was probably the biggest challenge. What did you guys have to do collectively to kind of overcome that?
Biggest.
I honestly think
big question.
Our biggest challenge is, I mean, we were given this incredible work by ND Stevenson and this incredible character of Nimona, who doesn't conform to anything, who is essentially a love letter to all those who've ever felt misunderstood, who also shouldn't conform. And yet we're in a medium where animation is often treated like a genre, and what that means is sometimes there's expectations, like Nimona looks too punk. She aspirational enough? Does she need to look like your classic, Disney princess?
How many times can she say murder?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just like so many times along the way, it was us standing up for who we thought this real punk character was and is, and not wanting to conform to all that. And we were very lucky to find a home with Annapurna and Netflix, who supported that in such a powerful way. We got to tell a story that we felt was real, authentic, and with a character who we absolutely love for it.
I think Nimona is probably one of the most relatable characters. I could relate to her teen angst and her frustrations and everything, so well. It's so rich. And you mentioned the idea that animation is often seen as a genre. Why is animation such a great platform for just telling great stories, and why it should be seen more than just a genre?
Well, I mean, animation, we have the ability to, I think, even beyond what you can do in live action, is tell that story and reflect those characters in every aspect of the world building. I mean, from the choices we make, I mean, obviously we've got lights here in the studio, and you've got all those same choices, but how we have that light interact, how we design the characters specifically, how we design the world, just elements that are fundamental and in the DNA of what you're seeing, I think allow us to make sure that it if we're doing our jobs right, it seeps into every frame, into every little bit of detail you got. So when you sit down to watch an animated film, you're already opening yourself up to this creative experience and opening yourself up to the ability to believe in the magic that's about to happen. And I think that right there allows you to connect in just a broader way right out of the gate, and lets you tell stories that are complex and funny and entertaining and varied, and again, not limited by genre or expectation. It really, there's no limit in animation, which is kind of a reflection of Nimona.
I love that response. I think that that's the mentality of, and thinking that needs to go behind more animated,
Right.
how people need to look at animation.
Yeah.
We're huge fans of animation here at Geekcentric, and a lot of movies connect with us from our childhood. I wanted to know, for you guys growing up, was there a movie that connected with you? Because I'm sure like this movie is going to connect with a lot of people. Was there anything in your past that really resonated with you as from an animated feature standpoint?
Oh man, I mean, so many. I mean, we were before we were directors, we were animators.
Yeah.
And it's really because, you feel there's so many things that you've watched growing up as a kid where you feel the journey of someone small in a world that's so big, and you're just trying to navigate it. And you can feel how every frame comes from the heart. And it comes from a real place, and it speaks to you in a way that I feel like animation is the one thing that everyone agrees on, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to pick just one movie, but I think that's what we always try to bring, is the fun with also a real message behind it. And again, the message of this film is pretty simple, and it's just get to know each other.
Yeah.
Get to know each other, inclusivity, and the idea that you're using animation, like you said, it already feels like an inclusive platform. It's just, it all layers really, really well. So I absolutely love that. You know what? Let's get a little fun here. I'd love to know, if you guys had shape-shifting powers, who would you want to live for as a day? Nick, why don't you kick us off?
I would probably, for a day, I'd want to know what it feels like to be Aaron Judge from the New York Yankees, just to smash a ball that far and be such a good person, and everybody loves them, and you get to wear those pinstripes, and everyone, oh man, he's the greatest. Aaron Judge, if you're watching this, I love you.
Awesome.
I knew that answer. I could have answered that question for him.
There you go.
That's a tough one. I mean, it changes from day to day.
Yeah.
I wish I had an answer. I mean,
He also wants to be Aaron Judge.
I do.
Aaron Judge is one of the greatest athletes that's
There it
out
is.
there right now. He's a great person.
Done. Aaron Judge. So I could learn how to play baseball.
Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time and answering some questions. Again, I really enjoyed this movie, and I most importantly, I enjoyed your passion and commitment to bringing this movie to life, because the trials and tribulations that this movie went through, it would not stop, and people wanted to see this movie and wanted to see it to the finish line, and I'm grateful for it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Cheers.
Hey, Indy, my name is Justin. Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
I imagine there's a immense amount of emotions right now. This is a story that you have been working on. I think you started in art school, right? When you were young. So now to see all these characters in this world come to life, like, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been more than 10 years with these characters. And, the book came out in 2015. And so at the time, like, that was really sad. It felt like saying goodbye to characters that I'd spent so much time with. So what's great about like getting to be a part of the process of this movie is that I get to keep spending time with these characters that I love so much. And they're growing and they're going out into the world, and like, I'm realizing that so many people see themselves in these characters, not just me. It's like seeing your kids go off to college, and it's just like this is just the beginning, like the whole world is about to start getting to experience this version of these characters, and it's super, super cool.
I found Nimona incredibly relatable for myself, right? Growing up and having similar sort of angst and frustrations, maybe not at the extreme of as metal and as Nimona, but that angst and that sort of that desire of wanting to be seen, and there's such a beauty to these characters in this story, and it's so relatable. Bringing them into animation and bringing them into this new platform. Have you discovered new things about the characters? Have they evolved for you in some ways?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they have evolved in a lot of ways. Some of them are pretty different, like especially Golden Loin, I think, has changed the most, where he's very goofy in the comic. And he's sort of an absurd character. And then Eugene brings such a like, he's genuinely really heroic, even if he's stuck on kind of the wrong side of the conflict. But yeah, I think they just keep revealing more aspects. I think with characters, it's like sometimes they feel literally real, and sometimes they feel like little parts of myself, and sometimes they feel like my kids, and like sometimes some mixture of all of those things. But they really become real when other people start to put their love into them, whether that's
Right.
readers of the book or watchers of the movie or the people making it or the people reacting to it in any way. That's what makes them feel real. And so
Yeah.
I think for me, like it just feels like these characters are taking the next step in their evolution. We
Yes.
all go through life phases, and I feel like that's part of like the growth of them and them just spreading farther out into the world and taking on a life of their own.
I love that. That's part of sharing this incredible story, right? It's kind of letting it grow and seeing how the world kind of takes it and how they interact with the world. And with that, have there been any any reactions to the movie that have really cemented why you created Nimona?
We just had this really, really incredible and emotional world premiere in Annecy in France. And it was kind of, I've seen this movie many times, and I've seen the finished version many times, and I've seen it on the big screen several times too. So like nothing about the movie itself was new. And yet in this, with all these people in the room for the first time, there was like, I had a really different experience where I felt both like this character is like the manifestation of my angst from a certain time in my life. And the audience is just like reacting with so much love and empathy that I felt like that, like part of me that was very complicated and angry and scared and lost and lonely was being seen and loved. And it was like, I was incredibly emotional. I think seeing that audience and like hearing the like sniffles as like people like are crying
Yeah.
through the last like 20 minutes of the movie. And it just is like, it made me feel like, ironically, I guess, because this is what's happening in the movie, it made me feel like seen and accepted. And then it also made me feel like so much less alone because there were so
Yes.
many people here who were seeing themselves in her. It was really profoundly emotional.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a sense of validation for something that's so personal. You hold close to your heart, and now it's being presented on this huge platform. It's amazing to see all the love and appreciation it's getting, and it's so deserving of it. Okay, I want to ask you a geeky question.
Okay.
We're huge collectors here on the Geekcentric podcast. Are there any collectibles from the properties you've worked on that you've added to your collection that you're super proud of? Are you a collector of like statues and figures and toys in general?
Yeah, I like hoarded everything I could get from She-Ra, which is the first time I ever had like, oh, I guess that's not true. I guess Lumberjanes had merch too. I've been really lucky in this. Yeah, so I try to get everything I could get my hands on for if there's any merch out there, I try and get it. And sometimes I just like, I gave some to my nephew knowing that like he like cut She-Ra's hair and like banged up the sword and everything. But it is like, it's more about like just holding on to those memories. And even if they get a daring new haircut at the end of it. But I think the weirdest thing I ever I tried to take this, I didn't succeed. I tried to take home a huge like She-Ra cardboard cutout at my last job, and I couldn't fit her in the car. And so I couldn't do it, but I do try to keep a little bit of everything that I've worked on.
That's good.
So yeah,
That's
everything
great.
for
Awesome.
Nimona, I'm like,
trying to get it
Oh,
all.
yeah.
Well, listen, in an interview with Canada's own Eric Bauza, I heard that you're a huge Star Wars fan, and we here at Geekcentric are huge Star Wars fans. And while I would love to know what sort of story you would want to tell in a galaxy far, far away, we don't have enough time for that. But I'd love to know, if you were to do Star Wars, would you want to do something in animation space, or would you want to do something in live action?
I mean, I would love to be a part of Star Wars in any way, and I've done a little bit of writing for some animated series for Star Wars, but anything to do with the bounty hunters, anything to do with Sam Wessel and Jango Fett, and like anything in that world, that's my absolute dream, whatever that looks like.
Well, I would love to see a story from you, Indy, in Star Wars.
All right.
Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Your
Good to know.
voice, you have such a great voice, and your stories are great. You're a trailblazer, and I am so happy for all the love that this movie is getting. It is so deserving of it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to join us on the Geekcentric podcast. It really means a lot.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to meet you.
Have a good one.
And we are back. I mean, I just on the topic of like speaking to the directors, you know, I think it's interesting to hear their challenges in how they had to stand up for who, you know, the character of Nimona and who she is. I think it's something that I know, like, even as a critic of this stuff, I don't often think about. But for writers and directors, I guess it can be challenging when there's so many people sharing their opinion on things like how many times can a character say murder, or, you know, should she look a certain way, right? But at the end of the day, I'm really happy that they pushed back on some of the feedback so that we could get this authentic representation of, like, I haven't read the book, but like what sounds like ND Stevenson wanted.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like
what he wanted. Yeah. I was saying in our spoiler free, you know, the entire creative team, including the directors, Nick Bruno and Chloë Quane, you know, they fought for Nimona to see the light of day. You know, again, there's already a lot of about the background story about Nimona coming, finally finding its way to Netflix and what that journey's looked like. So you can find that online. So I knew when I asked that question, there could be any one thing, and their response was like, oh well, you know, the whole thing was a challenge. But I'm glad that they pulled at something that felt really personal to the idea of how we perceive characters in animation, and how they fought for Nimona's identity, and they fought for that representation. They fought for that image, because that is today, more than anything with this movie, it speaks to an audience that is today, you know, that is very relevant now. And like Meg was saying in our spoiler-free review, it's incredible to think that ND Stevenson, he did this in art school, he did this for himself. This was a way for him to find his own identity. And now here we are, you know, 11 years later or longer, I think, because the book came out in 2015, as ND was saying. You know, here we are seeing the next adaptation, the next iteration of this story being told, and it all had the existing foresight of ND Stevens' passion and wanting to tell a story that is relevant there. It's like, it's crazy. It wasn't relevant probably back then, definitely wasn't. It probably would be a lot of eyebrow raises, and it found its audience through graphic novel, and it's now here on the largest, I think the largest scale that you could have for a story like this.
Well, and I think Troy near the end of the interview said, I think probably one of the most beautiful sentences in that he mentioned the parallel between animation and Nimona herself, which is no limits. And I think that's such a beautiful sentiment in one sentence, just to sort of draw that parallel between the character of Nimona, but also why animation is such a good storytelling device, right? And why it's used to tell stories like this.
And you can tell Nick and Troy have obviously lived with this film for a very long time to feel so confident in speaking about what went into bringing this to life. You know, I love the idea too that I think they were very much establishing this idea that animation already feels very inclusive. It feels very, adaptable, right? And people can embrace it. So using that platform as a means of storytelling broadens the idea of how people can come and interact with it. And it allows it to feel more inherently magical rather than stuck in a live action space. Like there's already a suspension of disbelief that comes in when you go into animation that frees you a little bit in enjoying that story. And I loved that. Like that's so true. I never really thought of it that way, in that, you know, you have a sense of wonderment and enchantment with animation, and the idea that it's an inclusive medium, and it's telling a story about inclusivity and identity. It's fantastic.
Well, and I mean, even hearing Nate's experience with, by the way, Nate, if you're listening to this, great name. Nate's experience with the world premiere at Annecy in France, and how, you know, having him hearing people crying and connecting with the emotional parts of this movie, and how Nimona being a manifestation of his angst growing up, and people not only accepting that aspect of his life through this story, but also finding ways to relate to him. And when he mentioned it made him feel seen and loved, and most importantly, less alone, like, what a profound moment as a creator. I mean, that's got to be one of the top top memories for Nate, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, as I was saying, it's almost a sense of validation,
Mm.
right? All these years later, to put your heart and your soul into something that is so personal, and to inch it out to the broader audience, to now the point where it's a movie, and you're screening it at a festival, and a whole other audience is now interacting with it. Like, it's such a great sense of validation for indie to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel loved by a whole new audience. It's great.
And I mean,
That's what you
come
want.
on, bounty hunters, dude. Like, I would watch it. Okay, and it's interesting. He mentioned Zam Wessel,
Yep.
who is also a shapeshifter.
Yep.
I mean, he could rock an original story in Star Wars. Like, I'd love, like, if he did like an original character, right, that he developed. Maybe Zam Wessel has a younger brother or sister that we're not aware of.
For sure.
Right? Like, how sick would that be to see?
I think that would fit.
Character fleshed out.
I think it's a great idea. I meant what I said. I would love to hear more of his stories told in a galaxy far, far away. The stories that feel very relevant today, but sort of hybrided for, Star Wars. I think Favreau would be all over it.
Oh.
Filoni would be all over it.
Get on
I think
it.
it would fit. I think it would fit in the grand scheme of what they could do if you could do a show about bounty hunters
Yeah.
like that outside of what the Mandalorian is.
Yeah, no, I think it would be really cool to, and I'm talking like, I want Attack of the Clones era stories specifically. You know what I
so
mean?
you do a period piece, like you wouldn't.
Dude,
you wouldn't
100%.
do
Between episode
Interesting.
1 and episode 2, like before we get to Zam Wessel's end of,
Well, that's an
of
interesting.
their life.
That's an interesting thought too, to do a show that or something that takes place in that period. I like that.
I'm telling you, dude. Like, listen, Star Wars is Disney and Lucasfilm. They're all about getting the little tiny getting out. What more can we exploit from this overall saga? But as we mentioned earlier, you also got to chat with the cast of Nimona. So without further ado, please enjoy our interviews with Eugene Lee Yang, Riz Ahmed, also from Star Wars, and Chloë Grace Moretz.
Hey, Eugene. My name's Justin. Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to meet you. I like your setup.
Oh, thank you. That's the second time that's happened
Yeah,
today.
the color seamlesses are great. The camera quality is crisp.
Awesome. Well, you are looking crisp as well and looking fly as always.
Oh, thank you.
I was so pleasantly surprised to hear your voice in this film and also to see your look. Like the character of Ambrosius very much looked like you. I was like, am I imagining this? But I think I read somewhere that they very much designed the character around you. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's actually how I was initially brought onto the film, which is wild. The production designer, Aiden, he actually was suggested me as a reference because when they switched, the major character design change from the graphic novel was actually Ambrosius. They decided they'd like him to be of East Asian descent to explore what that looked like. And he was familiar with my coming out video, knew like, that's a gay Asian man I can get behind. No pun intended. But that's why they said, well, I guess if he's part of the design, then like maybe we should reach out and see if he can audition. And that's how I came onto the project. Yeah.
Well, so beyond that, what else drew you into wanting to join Nimona as Ambrosius Goldenloin? That's a mouthful, by the way.
Yeah. No pun intended. I need to stop. ND Stevenson was the main draw for me, actually. I was a big fan of She-Ra, and I also had read the graphic novel. So knowing that this was a queer creative voice that was being translated to screen, I mean, that's all you really needed to tell me. And that's something that's like, it's kind of hard to find that sometimes, even in the animated world. So knowing that he was also an integral part of the process was the main selling point for sure.
For sure. You always want the creator's vision to be cemented in, the adaptation. And I think that this is very much a part of the celebration of this movie. I know I'm going to ask you a question. It might seem a little deep.
I love deep questions.
I know a lot of people talk about finding a character's voice, but I feel like for this movie, it's really about finding a character's soul. So I wanted to know, how did you go about finding the soul of Ambrosius and his journey through this movie?
Yeah, it was a lot of props to the directors, Nick and Troy, who were so sensitive to also knowing that, you know, they wanted to draw out a very authentic experience from me. I had initially kind of come in with something a little more like this, and it was like not the vibe. It was me posturing something more cartoonish and heroic. And I think that was the big thing was they said, like, you yourself are informing so much about this character who, in the end, what was discovered was, you know, he is technically the hero of the realm. He's this like princely character, but he's also goofy and really soft. And immediately you can tell he's loving towards Ballister, and that never changes in the film. Like, all of the struggle he's feeling is just, he's on the job, he has to abide by this institution, he has to do everything the system tells him to, but then he's also deeply in love with someone who he can't be with. And so that struggle and that internal like strife that he has is something that I just highly relate to. It's been a lot of key moments of my life. So being able to like inform the character that way, that was like the main thing about finding his soul. I think his soul is one of deep, constant conflict, but also he doesn't hide it. He's very honest.
Yes, absolutely. And I love there's a moment with the director when the director asks him, you know, how are you, or how are you feeling? And you see this moment where he just breaks and he just lets loose, but it's all internalized. And I thought that was such a beautiful moment to kind of capture this idea of, you know, what's perceived and the reality, and that sort of, and how Ambrosius is kind of living in that realm, if you will, of trying to deal with both sides of his life. And I think that's great.
That scene really summed up everything I said, that idea of the inner conflict.
Exactly. And I thought that moment really spoke to that. I wanted to know, and this is a fun question now, you know, let's say you had Nimona's shape-shifting powers.
Yeah.
If you could live as someone for one day, anyone, who would it be and why?
Probably my boyfriend, so I can finally understand what he says about me if it's true.
I love it.
He's always like, you don't pick up your shit. And I'm like, I don't see the mess you're talking about. And he says, this is clearly messy, Eugene. And I said, we have very different definitions of mess. He's probably right. That's why I think it's a kind of a losing battle going into that shapeshift. I'd be like, shit, I'm a fucking wreck.
You would start to see perspective, right? You would start to see the perspective.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think it'd be healthy for anyone in a couple, in a relationship, to make that their choice.
I totally agree with that. Listen, you've talked so much about the sort of spirit and the soul of, you know, relating to Ambrosia. Is there anything that you're going to be taking away from this character? Something that you just might have a different outlook on based on playing this character?
Yeah, I know I shouldn't bleach my hair, even though I might want to, because I already see what I look like with it. But also, like, you know, Ambrosius is such a, you know, he's already so close to me in a lot of ways. I think what is really inspiring about the film is Nimona herself. Like, that's what I take away. I love the energy Nimona brings. I feel like Nimona is like, all three of the main leads have a lot of inspirational aspects about them, but Nimona being such a messy, chaotic gremlin of a character who's like fighting the system, but then also can switch to being very, very vulnerable and true to herself. That's something that I want more in my life. The chaos with the truth, and just a little bit of, you know, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Let's destroy some shit. You know, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's get metal. I'm totally with you, man.
Absolutely.
I'm totally with you. Eugene, this has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the Geekcentric podcast. You're fantastic.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what you do next, man.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
All right. Later.
Bye.
Hey, Riz. My name's Justin. Welcome to the Geekcentric
Justin.
podcast. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making the time, dude. It's an absolute honor to have the opportunity to talk to you. So when I saw this in April, I didn't have very much information about this movie, but when I heard your voice, I was like, that has to be Riz Ahmed. And I was pleasantly surprised. Is this your first time doing voice work like this for like an animated feature? Or
it is. I've done some kind of short bits before for a feature like this, but I did do the voice for the animated feature Flea, which we also produced with our company Left Handed. But different in a way because that was documentary, different process. But yes, I guess it technically is my second animated feature.
Well, I know we're here to talk about Nimona, but Flea was outstanding. Probably one of my favorites from the year in the animated category. But you know, I have to know, what was it about Ballister that made you want to join Nimona and take on that role?
It was really the way that Nick, Bruno, and Troy Quane, our amazing directors, had laid out the vision for this character. first of all, they opened my eyes to the world of Nimona. I wasn't aware of the graphic novel. I wasn't aware of this incredible thing that ND had created and how beloved it was. So once I was onto that, I was like, wow. But before I even had a chance to get off the call and Google all that, I was like, I'm in. And that's because Troy and Nick were like, this is who this character is. This is how he feels like an outsider, how he has imposter syndrome, how he's fighting for acceptance. But in the end, he has to learn to accept himself. And I said, wow, I can relate to that. I think a lot of us can relate to that. And I haven't seen that actually, that story being told as often as I would like, certainly not in animation and in such a fresh way, in such a fresh world. So it was the character, it was their vision. And then once I got to digging, it was the world of Nimona.
Yes. Right. Yeah, no, that actually answers my second question, because I feel like, it's not about finding a voice. It's finding the soul of the character.
Yes.
Because each character is on a journey. So I feel like, as you've just mentioned, relating it back to your own personal life and connecting with that. I think that's sort of how you found the soul, because there's such an authenticity to Bal's journey throughout this movie that feels relatable in a lot of ways. So is there anything that you are going to take away from your time with Bal? Something that's inspired you in any way?
Yeah, I feel like something that I learned from Ballister is to not give up hope. Sometimes I think when the world seems so unfair, we can just kind of think, well, forget it. But I think what's amazing about Ballister is he doesn't give up in trying to do the right thing and trying to hope that things can be different. And I think we all need a bit of that energy in these crazy times.
Absolutely. Well said, man. Last question here. If you had Nimona shape-shifting powers, who would you want to live for as a day?
Wow. I probably want to live as, this is a cheat answer. This is like wishing for more wishes. Probably want to live as Nimona for a day. She's just so fun. She's just so cool. She's just got great one-liners, and I'm just her biggest fan.
Riz, thank you so much. Again, it's an absolute honor to have you on the
Thank
Geekcentric
you.
podcast. Hope you have a great rest of your day, man.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Chloe. My name's Justin. I'm from the Geekcentric podcast. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I saw this movie back in April, and I had no information. I went in very blind. I just knew it was an animated movie based on a graphic novel. And I got to say, I was incredibly surprised to hear your voice and very delighted. I wanted to know, what was it about this movie that made you want to jump on and be a part of it?
I think the source material, going back to ND Stevenson and what he created as his college thesis, which then became a webcomic. And then from the webcomic, became this graphic novel that was beloved and had this cult following. There's not often times in animation that you get really strong source material like that. Usually you get like a sketch of a character and you're like, okay, I think I know what we're doing here, so I'm just going to go for it. But the opportunity to play Nimona was a really tall order, and rising to that occasion was one that I was really excited about.
Yeah, and I think you delivered. You were outstanding in this movie. And I know a lot of people when they talk about voice acting, it's like finding the voice of the character, but it feels like a lot of the characters are on a journey, and it's about finding the character's soul.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, how did you find Nimona's soul?
I think it was an exciting kind of element of trying to find her soul in the fact that she's also a shapeshifter. She is so fluid in who she is, and that she doesn't want to be labeled for being one thing because she literally isn't one thing. But I think at her core, there's a vulnerability to her that I really wanted to capture. And there's a lot of chaos to her. There's a lot of punk, a lot of rage and stuff like that. And so I kind of had to stretch the rubber band to see, how it would snap back. And that was something that we really played with in the booth. Nick and Troy, the directors, pushed me, and were not afraid to kind of let me rip and go for it. And there was a lot of me that came through, which was fun to play with, and a whole lot of improv and comedy mixed in with all that vulnerability.
Yeah, I have to say, I think the voice acting, it all just connects back to the original voices. Like Riz, is Ballister, Eugene is Ambrosius, and you are definitely Nimona to the core. And I love that you guys were able to bring your own personalities to these characters, because it just jumps off the screen. And I think that's why it's different. It's not characters or caricatures, they're people, and I think they're very relatable. When you talked about recording in the sound booth, were you on your own, or I know it's just during the pandemic, did you guys get to do any records together collectively?
No, we were never around each other. I still haven't met Eugene. I met Riz once at the Met Gala last year, which was really funny. And we started recording this in 2019. So he and I weren't around each other. We didn't talk. I only kind of had him as a voice in my head when they would show us snippets after we had recorded stuff of our voices together. And ultimately I was just working opposite Nick and Troy, the directors. So it was a really specific experience, and that kind of is true for a lot of animation. But I think when you couple that with the pandemic and recording this in your closet with clothes around you for soundproofing, it was, I think, even more so aids to the vulnerability and the emotion within the chaos and excitement of the project.
Yeah, you can really find a place with that, and in the closet with clothes and really going there and so on. So like then again, seeing this come together, it must have been pretty like outstanding, right? Like to think that you were doing this in your closet and now to see how the voices work together. Was there anything that surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, this was something that we had been recording for so long, and we were almost at the end of it. And then, Big Sky got shut down, and they weren't going to go any further with the project and put it out, which was so heartbreaking. And we all knew how important this was for people to see. And then when we found out that it had a new home and it was going to be on Netflix, I think the biggest surprise was just hearing that we were going to be able to finish it. And when I saw it all put together, I think there are so many moments in the booth where I was like, did I just make the biggest fool out of myself and just ruin my career in that moment? And then I watched the movie and I was like, no, it works.
And it works.
Thank God it works. Yeah, it really, really
works.
works.
It totally works. Yeah, I could totally see those moments when you were riffing. I think they really do stand out. We're talking about Nimona, shape-shifting powers. If you had her shape-shifting powers and you could live as someone for a day, who would that be and why?
Oh my Lord. Okay, as someone. I haven't gotten that question yet.
Well,
I've gotten animals. But someone, I would probably say maybe like Amelia Earhart.
Oh, I love that.
That'd be kind of cool. Like,
that would be great.
Pretty badass, and maybe find out what happened. Where's that plane?
Hey, I'd love to see you play her.
Where's that plane, Amelia? I wish I could play her. I think she was really tall, and I'm 5'5".
Yeah.
So they could put me on stilts, but I don't know if I'm pushing enough height for that.
Hey, if they could make Gandalf look bigger than those hobbits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
That's gonna be me, except I'll be the Hobbit, but it's okay. It's okay.
Now, my last question. I know everyone's talking about how relatable and how connected they are to Nimona. I wanted to know for yourself, is there anything that you're going to take away from Nimona that you're going to apply to yourself that inspires you in a way to like live your life?
Definitely. I think that Nimona's not afraid to be exactly who she is and present herself exactly, as the person that she is. And I think that's something that I really respect and something that I really connect to, and something that I want to, continue to bring forward in my life, in how people perceive me and how I show myself to others, and to not be afraid to just be exactly who I am and stand up for what I believe in.
I love that. That is a great way to end this interview. Thank you so much, Chloë. You are outstanding. Another badass character. I love you in Kick-Ass as well. So I think that there's some parallels there. So, but thank you for joining us on the Geekcentric podcast. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you too.
And we are back again. Justin, I know Eugene from the Try Guys.
Yes,
I know, he's huge with the Try Guys. I've seen him in a bunch of their stuff. But what an insightful answer in Finding Ambrosius's Soul. I mean, and not that I wasn't expecting, I just didn't know what to expect, because I've really only seen him in a more of a comedic way. I haven't yet watched his coming out video, but now I'm going to seek it out to check it out. Drawing from the parallels of being tied to this organization of knights and the realm, but also being in love with someone he can't be with, and how he's had that experience in his own life, like minus probably the Knights of the Realm piece. I don't think he's a Knight of the Realm, but I think that's something that a lot of people can probably relate to.
Yeah, he's the Knight of a Realm in some realm for sure. He would
for
definitely
sure.
He definitely would be. I think again, as I was saying, he brought such an authenticity. He brought himself to the role of Ambrosius, and it really does show. But yeah, I think that to have the sincerity and the honesty to look inside oneself, which is very similar to what Riz said, to understand the parallels, to find that soul, to find, again, not a character, because even, he actually nailed it on the head with what I meant, right? Like, he approached it as a character, kind of giving you he gave us a sample of what that voice would sound like, very heroic and very pompous, right? But, they pushed him to just be himself and find that voice, and you can only look inwards when that is presented upon you, I think, as an actor. I think that's what's so interesting, is how do you bring yourself into these characters so that those moments that need to feel sincere and real, they do. And honestly, for all of this entire cast, everything feels real. It's not about putting on a animated characteristic or a character of someone. They bring themselves to these roles, and it's less voice acting and more acting, if that makes sense.
Well, and I mean, I think it speaks to the quality of Nick and Troy as directors, in the sense that they were able to put, like, all three of these actors talked about how they pushed them to be more their authentic self. And I think, at her core, I think when Chloe says at her core, there's a vulnerability that I wanted to capture. She talks about stretching the rubber band to see how it would snap back, and just how far could she push things. It was great because she was vulnerable, like Nimona, not only to become closer to that character, but her experiences, allowed her to do more improv and to be herself. And I think there were some fantastic moments of improv in this movie that just added so much to Nimona's personality, which is also so clearly directly tied into and from Chloe's personality. So, like, I think that's pretty outstanding that, all three of them brought that up in terms of where it initially sort of came from, and the fact that Nick and Troy were a part of that experience. I mean, again, it just speaks to their quality as directors.
Yeah, again, to piggyback off of that, Riz said, like, it was the directors that pitched him the idea, and before he had looked at anything else, he was in. Yeah. Right? And they sold him on the idea of the kind of character that he was going to be. And as he said, he immediately was able to recognize that he has been that person. He can play this person because it comes from a real spot. So again, I think it's the beauty of how, yeah, they're voice actors, but they're really acting, right? Like, they're really finding a character to portray, and with the voice and the animation, it just matches so well, right? And like you were saying, Chloe with her improv in some of these moments, like, you can tell when it's improv, but it works really well. Like, we had a good chuckle about the fact that it works. Like, they picked some really great moments and threw it in, and it fit.
Well, speaking of a good chuckle, I think Eugene wins for best laugh. Oh my gosh. Fantastic. Like, just big booming laugh that I was like, that's so good. And I think for Chloe, I love when she says she'd be the Hobbit. In your interview, she's kind of coming to accept that in the moment. But I think also what a great sentiment to end on with her, taking away that she strives to present herself exactly how she is, and how she shows herself to others, standing up for what she believes in. I think that's a message that everyone can take from Nimona, and so it was cool to hear that.
Yeah, it was absolutely great. Such a fantastic opportunity to connect with the creative minds and the cast behind this fantastic movie. Obviously, as always, as I say, I was a little nervous, but what was really nice is that I relaxed into it, and I kind of just felt a little loosey-goosey. I used the questions more of an outline rather than trying to be too rigid, and I had a great time. So a huge thanks again to Touchwood PR for setting it up, and Netflix Canada for arranging it all, because this is definitely one for the books.
Well, whether it be all these incredible interviews or even the opportunity for Megan, Darcy, and myself to attend the Toronto premiere at the TIFF Bell Lightbox and get to speak to Ted T and the animation team at DNEG was super cool. And I think, you getting to watch the movie even all the way back in April, and getting to take part in that whole experience is just fantastic. You killed it. I'm super proud of you for these interviews, because again, I watched them back, and you were kind of like, I don't know what to think about them. I'm like, they're great. They're really, really fun. And it's one of those things where we don't want to puff ourselves up too much, but there are a few interviews that we've done over the time that we've been doing this that I'll go back to and I'll watch just to kind of pick me up and cheer me up, and these will definitely be on that list.
Yeah, man.
But that is it for this Behind the Geeks episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, be sure to subscribe here on your podcast service of choice, as well as on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric, where you can watch these interviews, which I highly recommend you do. To see Nate's face as he talks about the reaction to the movie is really lovely. It's just as good as hearing him. So definitely check that out. We also have a TikTok and an Instagram, that we have some reels and TikToks going up on, where we've clipped out some fun moments and made a little collage of some moment. Collage, what would you call it? A montage. There it is. Yeah. That's the word I'm looking for. We
or
didn't make
supercuts. Yeah. Collages are like what you would do, like you cut out pictures,
yes,
and then you put it on construction paper,
yeah,
and then you have like a mood board or a dream wall, right?
I don't know if I'd be good at that. I think maybe we talked to Megan.
I think you'd be great at that.
Maybe.
I think you'd be great at
maybe.
that.
But you could check out that montage on TikTok or Instagram at We Are Geekcentric. And yeah, there's some really fun stuff that's going to continue to go up there. And we also have as we've been mentioning throughout this, we do have a spoiler-free review for the movie. So if you've already seen it and you're tuning into these interviews, but you haven't listened to our review yet, it's definitely still worth listening to. But if you want to sort of, hear our spoiler-free thoughts before checking out the movie on Netflix, I mean, you can probably tell by these conversations that we really enjoyed Nimona. But to find out exactly why, definitely check out that spoiler-free review, which is available now, again, on podcast services near you. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the hot geek summer, it's blazing. So again, join us. We have so much to talk about in the coming months. Join us on our Discord. We've got our coverage of even more, we've got coverage of series like Foundation Season 2, After Party Season 2, The Bear Season 2, a lot of Season 2s, and movies like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. We got Haunted Mansion coming up, Oppenheimer, and so much more. Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this metal Behind the Geeks episode. And as we say,